Okay, so I'm not doing Taekwondo every day, but everything in cycles. And I just had a nice dinner of leftovers. Turkey. Yeah. I'm having myself, we're going to go by extreme patriotism here. I got myself a chocolate manifesto. Since I'm a whore, I'll just whore myself to any company that'll pay me. That's the good shit. Do a little longer format today, and I'm going to tell a story first off about my experience after a particular woman dumped me. Twice even. That I sunk myself into my work and my art, and I became part of the London art community. I volunteered starting off as a bartender, and it was a paid position, which I'm very thankful for, because at the time I had absolutely nothing, and yeah, those people I really appreciate, even though some of them don't agree with me now on political stances and so forth. I've always been something of a shit disturber, and trying to provoke thought or feeling in other people, because that's the duty of a true artist. To get people talking about and thinking about the very issues of the day and things that bother us, like I've said in other videos. Excuse me. It becomes a responsibility of the artist to always resist whatever wave of popularity that persists within the common mentality and culture of the day. We're supposed to challenge and try to encourage a reevaluation of the intellectualisms, the movements and the trends, because as the cycle goes between generation and degeneration and back again. So self-organization to entropy, right? If we're going to talk about it in scientific terms, that's one of the reasons why I'm painting this blue wave right here, is because every wave is a new wave to the observer, as is the history. So as I've said before, in cycles of 30, 60, and 90 years. So whenever the next generation comes to the forefront and becomes the majority, the deciding demographic that actually has some support behind them and some money, right? Because money is important. But when you drive out certain demographics, okay, then it all collapses under the weight of itself in order to, under the guise of inclusivity. Because when you try to include everybody, you exclude somebody. And that's the way it goes, because you can't please everybody within a population. You can only aspire and conspire, frankly, to send your message to a particular audience. And this is the pursuit that requires that much more thoughtfulness. And you can call me a psychopath if you want to. I really don't give a damn anymore, because I'm an artist. I'm a true artist. I've planned and sought out every single facet of life that I could, and talked to people to see their viewpoints of life, and to observe like a scientist, to gather this information of other people's life experiences and culminate them into art, because that's what life is about. And that's what art is about. Art imitates life, life imitates art, and vice versa. and we have to have a voice. So hence why I'm here sitting in my captain's chair, okay, in my former bedroom, which is now a studio, in my parents' house, which I hope to inherit and take possession, right? Because possession is 9/10 of the rule as far as the economics is concerned, and other principles like that. And as an educated and experienced person, I take it as a responsibility to communicate all the things that I've learned, because if I just, put a lid on the light of the gifts that I've been given, then I'm an absolute, utter idiot. And moving forward from those statements, let me tell you a little more about the art scene in London as it was in 2012 and 2013. Before I went off to war, basically. I went off to work because I didn't feel like there was any support. And I could see the trend as to where it was going, that people like me would not be supported within the community because I was the majority, or I was the perceived majority and perceived problem of society. Masculinity is toxic. It's all the white man's fault for the problems of society. So we must, participate in voluntary extinction, which is complete and utter BS. Because my family and myself have been involved with and educated in the means of slavery. Okay? This is not a joke. It's all supported by public record and finance records. And because actions as a Christian speak louder than words. And I can sit here, as a talking head all I want. But that doesn't necessarily get the message through unless I follow through with an action. And there's a lot of fakers out there. Okay? A lot of people that speak the word and don't follow through. And they've been hijacked, as I've said in other videos, with the replacement of a spirituality with a pathological destruction. The intoxication of propaganda. And I started seeing this trend, the exclusion of people like me who have an extreme amount of talent, okay? But as is the finance, with what makes the ship go up? Funding makes the ship go up. And these, I'm going to come out and say it. I'm going to say the gay mafia, to be honest with you. They're part and parcel to all of this because of, historical revenge and so forth. But when you seek revenge, you dig two graves, theirs and your own. Creative people can be extremely jealous of each other. You think about art school, in the critique sessions. And it's basically, it devolves sometimes into passive aggressive annihilation of another person's character and confidence. And I have suffered myself exclusion from art schools because of the ideas that I had to portray. It wasn't, they excluded me because of my lack of talent. Because I'll be honest, I wasn't as good with the visual arts or any other kind of arts as I am right now. And I had to teach myself and learn from other people. But my family and the greater family at large, that is Canada, we are extremely creative. We are extremely talented. And you don't screw with us. You don't mess with us. Because the consequence of the action is an equal and opposite reaction. And when balance is unbalanced, and when the pendulum swings from one far side to the other, and then back to center again, it'll completely annihilate you. And you have no idea how or when it's going to annihilate you. Because that is the means of change. Okay. I did my pilgrimage. I did it. I went to, this was after my involvement with the arts community here. And speak to anyone that you want to that was here in London at Forest City Gallery or the Arts Project or Michael Gibson in that time. Okay? And they'll speak and say, this guy was not a bad guy. He was just trying to break in. But there's people within the community that wouldn't give me the freaking light of day. Okay? They wouldn't give me the time on their watch. And there's one thing that I don't appreciate as an artist, and that's being ignored. I hate being ignored. Because I have something to say like everybody else. You see? When the inclusion, absolute inclusion, diversity, excludes people. Because it's not the true means by which communication happens. It's propaganda. Okay? It's only addressed to a particular audience of exploitation. And being an educated man, having read the Communist Manifesto, and having read Machiavelli, and having read, and learned about the IMF and the World Bank and economic hitman, and I've read, the shock doctrine. I've read This Changes Everything. I've read this Shake Hands with the Devil, and numerous, classical works. Okay, and in high school I read Adbusters on a regular basis, so I knew and I understood media literacy far more than anybody would ever give me credit for, because I'm one scary dude, and I know that. Because in the origins of things, including like my commendation that's on the wall over there, right, in 2004 for doing for heading the project, excuse me, of the Sunset Parade backdrop. It was recognized, and thankfully, I have to. I'm in absolute gratitude, for being given that privilege. But, people get jealous, and they don't like taking direction from somebody that has a vision. And vision comes from experience. And if we're going to go on a tangent here, I am absolutely sick and tired of women taking advantage of men, and women seeking out profit and income status over creativity and intelligence. I'm sick and tired of it. Enough is enough. Men have had enough of this bullcrap. Okay? There's a reason why the patriarchy existed in the first place, and why a certain dominance structure existed for eons. Yes, did it go out of balance? Certainly. That's why the suffragettes had to come into place and come into play, right? To rebalance the movement of the day and the society as at large. And then the second wave feminists, which, if you're going to ask me, yes, I am a bra burner. I don't want to see your bosom fucking bound up. Stupid. Self-harm. This hedonistic drug culture. Okay? Getting drunk on propaganda and getting intoxicated by psychedelics and pharmaceuticals. And some people are too young, because as is the principle, as Stalin said, Give me a child, I'll give you a communist. Give me a child, I'll give you a rainbow SJW. As funded by interlopers and false Jews, false Christians, false Islamists, or let's say false Muslims. Because there's a lot of fakers out there, and you don't know who they are, because we're past the age of terror, and then we're into the digital dark age. Now, my position I took behind the bar specifically so that I could meet as many people as possible and deal with my own heartbreak and deal with my own social anxieties. Because as an intelligent person, one of the worst things that you could expose yourself to is the public. And there's a lot of women that I turned down that were rather interested in me. But I knew that I had to leave at some point. I knew that because of the way that the culture was going, I would not be supported. And that, as by other people I've learned from, say like an artist named Paul Duff, and I have his book, and he was located up in the British Peninsula, and I went to meet him once with my grandmother. And I got his book, and his book is part of the curriculum for OCAT, and in it he entails his biography. And what he said to me once was, Noel, if you want to be an artist, don't be an artist. And I took that to heart. So it's a lot of information to take in. Now, as the culture was at the time here in London, Ontario, because London is a very special place. It is. Even though I've had such a contemptuous and volatile relationship with this city. And I have such diverse and intricate, inextricable relationship with my memories and the set and setting that is this city. I got many complaints, but I have many praises as well from the time that my family moved here in the late 90s. So like if you're going to get back to FCG, as a tangent, I remember when TAP first opened when I was in high school and I went to CCH. And I walked past there after track and field practice or band practice, or go to the Two Wheels and sit there when free ride or downhill mountain biking was coming to the fore, and more tangentially, I paid for my first mountain bike, my first real good mountain bike, from money that I earned from going on course with cadets. So more to attribute to the fact that every dollar that I have or anything that I have is by my own two hands. Okay? These calluses are not fake. You can't just put those on there like appliques in some sort of film, because this is my life. And if you're a victim of propaganda, like this particular woman that I keep citing, it's not your fault. And I forgive you. It hurts to think about. It hurts to think about what the culture has done to women and how it's used and abused them. And on how so few men over the past 15 years. I've just let it happen. All it takes for evil to persist is for good men to do nothing. And I myself didn't feel like I had any allies. I was just there to observe and see what was really going on. I was part of, an instrumental and pivotal point in local culture. I had a camera, an Olympus, and I took pictures. Absolutely irreplaceable pictures, because this places are gone now. Certain places are just, they got leveled. The building is gone. Like the APK is gone. And I built relationships because of college with particular people, and they know who they are. And irreplaceable moments. With meetings and greetings with bands like Wormwood and You'll Never Get to Heaven. And then being there for noise core stuff and sampling off of my toe shoes at evac. All right, these are irreplaceable experiences, and they're all gone now because of gentrification and because of real estate speculation. There's particular people within this locale, within southwestern Ontario, and I don't necessarily know their motives, because from the outside you can only ding dong, you can only say and conclude so much without more information. And hence the efforts of certain organizations right now to try and combat and arrest the decay and the white flight. So as a concept, because as things change, and as more people come into this country, too many, by my opinion, if I'm going to go conspiratorial, in an effort to destabilize the economy and to put people into servitude. And the people who enact these policies and put them into practice, they're going to hang. They will. You will hang, whether you like it or not. And you're not going to hang literally, but you'll hang by the court of public opinion. And you and your legacies will be decimated. I'm calling it right now. Because the pendulum swings from one end to the other and back to balance again. And all the flying monkeys will come out to protect the narcissists. And do I have narcissistic tendencies? Absolutely. Do I have psychopathic tendencies? Who knows? That's up to public interpretation. I'm the one sitting here talking to you about this. One-sided. I'm not expecting you to have any kind of retort to this, because you weren't there, but I was. I went to house parties, I made friends in my younger years. I went to basement parties, total punk, and I smoked weed with other artists in front of the root cellar, when the root cellar was still a hip and happening place. Now it's boarded up, much to my dismay. And as the poverty and the destitution arose in the city, I've had my chances to become more involved, but I didn't because personally I had to continue upon my survey of this country to try and figure out, what's my place in this society if I'm not wanted for what I am? What's my place in this environment if I'm not needed or greeted with gratitude? Do I have, okay, so again, another tangent upon this statement. Do I have an ego? More than likely, you be the judge here. Do I have weight, and do I have a reason? Do I have justification and credibility to state these things? Yes, I do. My art is all around me. I've put the work in since high school to be as good as I am at just being an artist. And I didn't want to be an aircraft mechanic. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I wanted to be one of the very few fighter pilots with an arts degree. History, politics, and philosophy, with history as a minor. But as the culture goes, and then the corruption goes, this is where we are now. 10 years, 12 years after the fact, an examination of what has passed, because you can't necessarily judge what's going on from an objective viewpoint as a historian, right? Okay, me being a university dropout from Trent University. Don't listen to this guy. What the freaking hell do I know? Just pissed off, sitting in a room, talking to a phone. I became part of many different groups, through association. And these relationships have persisted all this time, through 3 degrees of separation. And there's been other points where I've seen very special moments happen, through Loma and stuff like that. And other CCH alumni and Beale alumni or Banting alumni. Because this city, whether we want to give it attribution or not, has developed and fostered, this city being, London, Ontario, many important and monumental people, just by us intermingling and allowing the effervescent nature of creativity to come to the very, very top of the beer, right? Because fermentation is the foundation of society, or at least that's the theory. So here I am establishing, some sort of oral tradition. And anybody that watches this stuff, I encourage you to think about, the time that has passed and how much technology has changed our interpretive and interactive capacities. Because there's just been aspects that have completely and utterly annihilated the communities that we developed before. And I remember I was trying to use Tumblr as an online gallery when I went into these spaces and talked to people, trying to use the technology as best I could, but it wasn't loading fast enough, and I was ahead of my time. I'll even say it right now. Online, trying to, usurp this system for which was, guarded by another part of the demographic. And I'm honestly going to come out and say it. It was women. Some of them very good, and I'm very happy to have been close to them. And I've given gifts to them. But, some gay people, I'm just not happy with. I'm really not. And despite my diplomatic relationships with them, the jealousy comes out. I don't appreciate that. Not one bit. Because it's not supposed to be about your sexual orientation or who you sleep with when it comes to art. It's all about the product and the relative impacts and weight and relative relevance of the art pieces themselves and what they say about a specific moment in time. Because, how can I own these moments after the fact, after they're gone? What am I left with except a bunch of memories? And as it is right now, the memory is being wiped by the cyclical and domineering nature of the media. This content over quality mentality, in which is, supported and perpetrated by those who are not creative, those who don't have the talent, and those who are not willing to put the work in. They just want to exploit and dominate and divide. I want you to think about that, because history is a cycle of artisans and merchants when it gets down to the brass tacks of things. Those who are selling and don't have, and those that have but don't know how to sell. And if I'm going to correlate that back to Paul Duff and what sent me down this path of becoming an aircraft mechanic and trying to further my own art career, because I've been rejected, by 4 or 5 different art schools when I applied to them after I flunked out of Trent in my second year. So I felt like at a certain point then I had no choice except to find another medium. And how do you speak your voice? You speak your voice by sticking to what you know and what's in your heart. And what I know it's in my heart, okay, is aviation in Canada. It's this. This is me. As much as it is me. Now I'm wearing this shirt right now. See that? That's KF Aerospace. And they've been around since the 60s. And a lot of other companies in aviation have been around just as long, if not longer. But they get hijacked by psychopaths and the incompetent. And the creators and the creative people, the founders, get left by the wayside and completely forgotten.